Hey, what's up, First Smoke fam? We sit down with Nick the Piff, and he took the Cuban Black Haze and crossed it to about 50 to 60 different phenos, a bunch of samples on the table. Wait till you see this, but if you haven't yet, please go subscribe to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/FSOTD, and we rely on all the FSOTD family members to support the show. We appreciate you guys. We got a bunch of cool shit in the works. Make sure you hit the like button on the video if you fuck with it. Turn on your post notifications, and we'll see you at the end. You want to stay tuned. He's claiming to be the mayor of the Piff. You're going to want to see this. Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, it's a special day. We're going to have a Piffathon with my man, Nick the Piff. And he just pulled up with, I don't know, it looks like 50 different phenotypes, all crosses, cross to Haze. What's good, man? How you doing?
What's good, brother? Thank you for having me.
Are you ready to have this Piff party?
Yes, I'm ready to have this Piff party with you guys, you know. I'm ready to show the world what some of this Piff is, you know, some of these crosses that we've been working on. So please, you know, dive into some of these guys. Some big ones on this table.
So I got one rolled up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is a SFV times Haze.
Correct.
Number 24.
Yep.
Nice fresh batches. I like to roll up a fat one so I can really taste it. You know what I mean?
Please do so. How was your immediate feel when you smelt it? Did you?
I like this one.
Yeah.
You know?
Traits of.
I like anything where I feel like the taste transferred and there's some flavor to it, something different, maybe a little, you know. Obviously, the high and the effect is kind of secondary to me. I look for that flavor first because I know that that's going to be...
Translate.
You know, yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So, I like this one, and you got a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of old school stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Very.
What are you leaning towards?
What
you got rolled up over there?
I rolled up an SFV Haze as well just now for this one. Getting through it. I actually, you know what? It was actually the original Diesel Rosé times the Cuban Black Haze. My bad. You know, I'm just smoking so many of them. But that's the first one that I have rolled up. Almost done with it. Again, really, really nice strains, you know, that bring all those profiles out. If you know the original Diesel, if you know the Rosé, you know, it gives it that little splash, you know what I mean? Then you have the Haze, which brings it that essence, you know, gives it that smell that we're used to, you know, which, again, you know, ends up really elevating your high at the end of the day, having a really good buzz, you know. That's what
That's what makes the difference.
Yeah, it makes the difference, you know. You want to smoke something different, you want to try something different, and you know, it's important that we really know what the real hazes are as opposed to, you know, some of the stuff that could have been out in the past. I mean, there's been some really nice ones, don't get me wrong, but I just think a lot of times sativas are called hazes as a secondary option to, you know, to that, you know what I mean? So there's a difference, you know, there is a difference. The Haze does have a difference than, you know, other sativas, which wanting to, you know, that strain's an old strain, so we haven't really had it, you know, around, and the versions that we had, you know, may not be, you know, had it been crossed back possibly, made it a little stronger, you know, they're just kind of there. Which, you know, getting a really good grower, person that understands the strain, and, you know, it's really a family at the end of the day.
It's a long strain. Talk a little bit more about, you know, what first drew you to the Piff?
Yeah, I mean, for me, growing up in New York, you know, you always had to have your sour and your hazes, you know, like the Piff and sour always. So I ended up just going uptown, you know, over there at 172nd, 173rd Amsterdam's, all the way up to St. Nicholas. And I used to just look for Haze, you know, and go back to my neighborhood, you know, and do what I got to do. And it was unique to me because I would go on those journeys, you know. I would leave where I was at, go uptown, go to Brooklyn, go to Harlem, and, you know, have fun.
That had to be crazy as a kid, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. And a lot of times, yo, this guy's a cop. This guy's a cop coming up here and shit, you know. You know, but it's trappers, you know, and I respect them fully. They're out there day in and day out just, you know, making their moves. And they got to, you know, an unfamiliar face comes around. Okay, yeah, I feel you. I'm the same way. You know what I mean? But obviously that changed with being up there and, you know, making sure you're on point, being there, doing your thing, and developing some good relationships. And, man, I would just go back into my neighborhood and at, 15, 16, I was like, yo, Nick the Piff, and it just stuck. Never really, thought too much, but like when, the cannabis industry, was going and obviously being around it, obviously, and seeing the movement of stuff, I was blessed to see like, some brands right in front of my eyes happen, you know what I mean, which was inspiring. So I was like, look, like I got to get my stuff in packaged, but at the same time, like I can't package somebody else's weed in a sense, like a strain that somebody else respectfully created or whatever, right? So, I stayed away from it for a bit, but, I'm one day just on Instagram looking for hazes, looking for different things, and, came to a profile where seen somebody that looked like they were doing it right, reached out to them, just started to try to, build a little bit, and very reserved, young man, as you should be, right? Especially like in that world. But, look, we were opening up, trying to get there, and got to have him come down and meet, we had a really good meeting, brought his dad, amazing old school Cuban family, and I was like, okay, I get it, like you guys really got it, you know what I mean? And we ended up just kicking it off. And from there, I was like, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go and I'm going to start this. And I would go to, shout out to Secret Sesh, because like I was able to like showcase my brand at such a underground gathering and line up and be online and, got to trap it out, make sure everything's cool, get home safe, just go through that for like a good 6-8 months, and got to meet some really nice people, bro, really dope people of the cannabis space through it, really, true smokers that new strain. So if I did tell them, I have Haze or Piff, they were like, wait, this is it, like this is really it, you know what I mean? And this was like, 2018, 2019. We were just, starting to get it out a little bit, just, hey, this is what my version, this is what I think real Haze should be, which was cool. It was perceived real well. People were, happy to have another cool strain in the business. And, man, from there it was just, doors are opening, people are loving the flavor. People love Haze. I'm inspiring other Haze lovers, people that inspired me, people from, the Heights uptown to really be like, wait a minute, we still got something here, because a lot of people just, at one point where, I don't want to say turn their back on it, but, it just wasn't the thing, to people. And it's really difficult to like,
What do you think happened to Haze?
Again, it's a plant that takes a long time to grow, so like, you think about it, you got
kind
other
of similar with like Sour and OG though, right? Like what happened to all the classics?
Life evolves, and it's
Shit happens.
Shit happens. It's
situations.
It's difficult to hold on to those strains. And this is my opinion, right, on what could possibly be those things. Is just like, look, when you're in the business and there's a certain strain that's got a demand for it, and then out of nowhere the demand starts to change. I mean, you start to think about what you should be doing to possibly fill your demand. You know what I mean? So I think just with time, and especially on the West Coast, they were never really too fond of the sour, which is okay. They have some of the best fucking weed here, and I get it. Just I think the versions we saw maybe on the East Coast of sour and Miami, the stuff that would come out of there was like different. You know what I mean? So again, it would never, that stuff wouldn't ever, come this way, you know what I'm saying? But respectfully, I think people just would let go of their mothers and try other stuff. They didn't have a big enough room. And then, in that world, again, a lot of shit occurs where, it could point you to a different, idea, but I just feel like, all weed is, really nice to be
absolutely
be highlighted.
Let's talk about this OD times Haze number 3. Talk about the OD.
Yeah, it's an original diesel rosé times the Cuban black.
I like the nose on this one.
Yeah.
This one stands out to me.
Yeah, it's got like, again, they all Haze profile, with these other features in there, which is important, to be putting out hazes, putting out stuff that has a different effect.
What's your ultimate goal with this pheno hunt and, your idea of crossing Haze to all these different, different strains and stuff?
I just really want people to enjoy really pleasant smoke, man. All kinds of really positive things come from the Haze plant, you know. High CBD counts, which is, you know, very nice to have in a strain that we generally, when you do have strains, they don't have, you know, big amounts of that in there, which, look, it helps. It helps balance out and have a nice long soaring high, you know what I mean? So I just want people to really try different, you know, be open in a sense to when they see something that's Haze, especially from my brand, you know, to know that like we're putting out the real deal stuff, you know. Other you know, times that stuff has been called Haze, maybe people have been let down. Like I said, people been putting sativas that, you know, XJs, Jacks, this, all, you know, again, cool strains, great strains, don't get me wrong, but are not Hazes. They did evolve. They came after the Haze, you know. But again, very, very happy to see people just know that there's real piff out there, and we're hitting it with some of these fun stuff that are in the business now and just giving it a little twist, you know?
Absolutely. What you going to try next?
Man, I'll probably, let's see, you know.
What you got going over there?
I just rolled this number 7. I really like. It's really like reminiscent of an old school Haze, but it's got the SFV dominant kind of gas behind it.
Probably dive into one of the Oreos times Haze, because when
Yeah.
I smoked it the other day, it just had to be fucking going, you know?
Yeah.
I was happy. I was up, you know? Just really, really,
You've
really.
been trying these? How long have you had
Yeah,
these?
about 2 days now. About 2 days,
So they're
maybe
pretty fresh.
3. Yeah, just going through them, you know, trying not to, you know, very delicate with them, you know, like seeing like all your little, you know, babies over here. I love them so much. I just want to make sure they stay, you know, right? You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
opening bags. And
What do you think about the fact that you have to kill most of these off?
it's part of the business, you
Yeah.
know. It's part of the
Kill 'em.
business that you go through, right? You can't keep them all.
Like how many are you expecting to? How many do you want to keep out of
Look,
maybe this round of pheno testing?
you know, there's like, I want to say, you know, from each of the strains, I'd probably say there's about 4 total, and you know, 4 strains that I love total, and then there's a couple phenos to each, and I'd say like, obviously, you know, you always settle with the one from each of, you know, but and that's like those days. Obviously, there's like, I would say there's maybe a total of 10 things I'd keep, but you know, 4 or 5 of the hazy ones, all haze. Something we have something beautiful, Nightcap times Gary Payton, which is a really, really nice cross. You know, you see the creaminess and that part of the Gary, and then it adds a little, you know, lift of a nice sativa that doesn't have the traditional smell of the sativas that we generally see or smell, but you could tell it's you know, a different nose, you know, and I really like that one. I like even a lot of the phenos that he chose that weren't Haze per se, my buddy, you know. Again, great choices, you know, good grower, good breeder, good man, you know what I mean? Just a kid that like, sorry, when I say kid, sorry, it's my New York, but you know, 28 years old, but great foundation, great family, you know, father, great man that, you know, kept. It's important to keep, you know, when you're raising anyone, you know, you keep them in a direction and not getting in trouble, you know, and he's been able to keep them in a real positive direction of growing, you know, and still keeping the origins, you know, reminiscent of what they came up under, which is good Haze, you know. I like a lot of people's genetics. He looked through.
Outside of Haze, what's your favorite thing to smoke?
You know, outside of the Haze, you know, I'm definitely into all the really nice gelato flavors that are out there. Obviously, you know, was big for the business, you know, and any creation of that, a runts, a lemon cherry, and any hybrids of those. I do love my 41s because I like gassy, creamy, you know, strong pot, you know. And then I have my days where I'm like diving into my, you know, if I could have these type of sativas around, I'd be more into looking for sativas from places, but I rarely find, you know, the ones. OG Kush, could never go wrong with OG Kush, you know, blow your head off real quick. Just really get set, you know what I mean? It's hard to really choose one for me, you know, because a lot of, again, strains that I grew up on and names are obviously they're branded well nowadays to other names, which are, you know, dope as fuck, you know what I mean? But you just show me good weed that's grown right and then has its own unique terpene or name that's actually what it is, and I'll be interested. You know what I mean? I'm right there. I'm right there with all the potheads in the world just trying to really be told, hey, this is something, and it is. Because, you know, look, you have your effects, you have your stuff. You want to, you know, you get stoned, you want to look up and read about it. It's matching. It all feels good, you know? It's important, you know?
Absolutely. I'm rolling this.
Yeah, what do you got going? What are you twisting?
Rolling this OD times Haze.
Enjoy yourself. Yeah, you know, you come from Florida originally, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man. Like
Haze
that,
was
you
big
know,
back
we used
there.
to see
It's
a lot
huge.
of. It was like Haze and Sour Diesel at the same time,
Yeah.
and that was really being. You know, you could get fresh batches out there.
Right. Yeah, shout out to all those people who, you know, kept it going down in Florida, New York.
Yeah, and it all
any
changed now.
places.
It's like, you know, what's everybody doing now? What do you think? Just, you know, the runs.
What's
the
this guy
limit
doing?
shares.
You know, watching the other guy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's gonna have to probably get back to like artisan craft for most people.
It
'Cause
should.
I think that all that middle ground is gonna get, you know, for the most part, ate up. I think, just because of economic reasons. But like the artisan craft is always gonna be a movement.
Yeah, I do. I, as a smoker, I must say, you know, when I'm going into shops and stuff, and I do see some of these artisan brands, and you know, clean looking, and hey, let me try this. You know, it's a G13, a cheese OG cross. Wait a minute, let me look into this. And then I taste it, and it really is like the things I'm showing you, a blend of both. And I'm like, wait, this is fucking, I really like this, you know? And it's just, like I said, just got to be top quality, obviously, you know? And people have their versions of those strains that they've tried. They, you know, may not have been happy, but, you know, I remember getting a really old school blue cheese, really nice, really musky and creamy and stinky, you know? I'd like to see, you know, all these strains that at least I came up on, because, you know, with weeds, like they go and they come, you don't get them, you know, those batches, sometimes it's like, fuck, you know, sometimes you want something, you know, something different. You guys, man, are doing super well. I love to see anybody do well, you know, and really put out some good info for the business, for cannabis space, and, you know, allow people to come up and give their stories and stuff. So appreciate you guys for a smoke, for at least, you know what I mean, bringing that
Appreciate
to
you,
the
bro,
business.
keeping the Piff alive,
Yeah, just
keeping the Piff
yeah.
movement going strong.
Try,
What do you feel about New York? How everything is coming along? I mean,
Man,
it's really
it's
fucking
fucking-
changed quick, right?
Yeah, bro. It's actually really, really, really nice to see for someone like me who, you know, set out west now 12 years.
What part of New York
I'm
you
from Queens originally. Yeah.
Nice.
So, you know, love it here, you know. It's been life-changing. Get to raise my family here, meet great people. It's a great city, you know. It's a great city. And now seeing, like, New York being a little open is cool, because, you know, one of the reasons I just left at that age was like, I couldn't smoke weed walking around, you know what I mean? I was getting arrested. So it sucked. It really sucked. And I was like, you know, a real stoner. So, like, you know, I was always that person in the group that smelled like weed or whatever. And it just shit got old a little bit, you know? When you came out here, people were so chill, you know? Nobody's smelling you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. So it's like really nice to see New York at least, like, okay, you know, opening up, you know, for doing that. And hopefully they get it, you know, rolled in properly, and work with the right, you know, people. Especially you got people, you know, from California that are established, who've run, you know, large facilities, who've, you know, shown on paper they're doing a certain way, and, you know, they're really, you know, they've had their taste of the business, let's say, right? So it'd be nice to see at least New York take California's input as well, you know what I mean, respectfully, and guidance, just as much as we've taken theirs, in a sense, you know, when they're so yeah, just I think the two coasts are extremely important to work together properly, you know, and see how each other could really, you know, work right. You know, at the end of the day, it's like two great cities, right? And look, the experience in California, we know what's going on. It's been here since the 70s earlier, you know? People are growing weed out here. You got to respect California growers, California brands, in a sense where, look, you know, we definitely want to see New York. I want to see New York. Everyone wants to see New York go. It helps everyone, right? But you get a lot of people that come around the space that might guide you the wrong way. And, you know, time is money, so, you know, you got to just be cautious and be right. So, you know, when you do have, you know, reputable brands and people that are actually running the right type of operations, you know, retails and stuff, like, I think it would go right for the two to, you know, find some ways to work. And Florida and everybody to really figure out. It's tough, you know, the space, everybody has their stuff, but whatever, you know, like it's just good for the business. It's good for the business, you know, for people to grow, you know. And then respectfully, like, you see some really cool brands coming from here, man. Cali's got the coolest ones.
How do you feel about California brands being some of the first to market to New York if it happens that way?
Yeah, I mean, who shouldn't? Why shouldn't they be? You know, like, again, it goes back to what we're saying. Like, they have.
Do you feel like New York should be for New Yorkers?
No, I think like I was saying, was those New Yorkers that want to get into it, I think should do their diligence in finding some of these proper brands from the West Coast that, again, have shown the right, you know, report on paper, everything looks cool, they're moving, you know, and getting together. I respect the fact that some people also want to just go on their own and, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But then we know, right, all of us in the space know, like, okay, if you haven't been, you know, operating certain types of facilities, like, it may not go correct. But who are we to just also be like, hey, you're not, you know, your plants are not going to grow. You know, growers, farmers, anybody in the cannabis space that loves it is going to be passionate. So it's hard to tell somebody like, yo, it's not going to rock, you know. But I mean, I think they should be, you know. The brands that are doing it deserve to be there. You know.
Do you have any plans to get into the New York market?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
The Piff's got to be there.
It has to. It has to be. And like I said, it was a time of the business that no one's highlighted it. No one's doing nothing with it. And it takes time, man. It's been 3-4 years, you know, branding, marketing, work, dispensaries, this, that, you know. So it's also a brand that deserves to be there with the right strains and the right people behind it, the right partners. And like I said, open discussions with people that really have the same passion for that strain, for that plant, you know. For me, it's like, look, we got certain things from our end that we could deliver and make sure that things succeed genetics-wise and everything. And obviously, we think we'd be a good help to, you know, people that are wanting to get in the space and have the real deal, you know, on their program, you know. But like I said, I'm happy to see everybody go through what we've been going through in Cali for the last 10 years. And, like, you get calls from some of your friends over there on, you know, what they have happened, and you're like, oh, I had this conversation 10 years ago. Oh, I get it, you know. Like,
Yeah.
So, yeah, more blessings to everybody going for it, you know. Like, it's open, and you should go for whatever you want to do in life, you know. And the opportunities are there for everybody,
Absolutely.
you know. Now, to get on my next one, let's see which one I'm going to start cracking here. I don't really know. It tastes so good.
I'm liking the
The OD?
yeah, what is it again?
The original
Original
diesel
diesel
rosé
rosé.
times Cuban black. Giving you the haziness, giving you the piffy.
It's nice. Different. It's like greasing up and stuff. Came through pretty good.
Yeah, they you know, my boy definitely, you know, does his thing. I can't say that he doesn't, you know. Shout
What's
out
your
to
favorite
them.
thing he grows?
You know, they had this really nice strain called the triple chocolate chip that was coming out about last year. So it's really nice to me. Had a mint chip flavor with the gas of an OG. And it was out under his brand and some other ones as well. And I thought it, was a great strain. One of his like phenos that he, collects his seeds, finds the right seed drops, really pops them, goes through them, monitors them, rubbing the stem, looking at the height, looking at the root growth, looking at what really is like looking like a thriving, version of what's happening, like it really monitors that well. Obviously, does all the right clean work to a very light, so when you do that, you find some, you get through your hunts pretty well. You just got to love it. You got to love it and really know when it's loving you back, right? When you're getting that love back.
Yep.
And, your plants will tell you everything that's going on. They'll tell you.
Absolutely.
They're feeling what you're doing.
What seems to be the fan favorite so far for the Piff?
For these guys right here?
Nah, before this, pre the Pheno.
Pre-Pheno, I mean, I got to say, man, I do stick to, like, one of my main things that I need to have in my body is that Cuban Black Haze, man, the Piff, like the original, which I'm so, I brought you all the versions.
Yeah.
I just left the Cuban Black home because I really wanted to talk about this today. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it's a necessary thing for my body.
But that's been the hit. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's all hairy and beautiful and stemmy and crystally. I mean, it's just straight church at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I gotta have that in my body, with my lemon cherries, for my backpack boys. You gotta smoke this shit all day. It's my guys, I fucking love, the root beer haze. Like we said, the G Funk times the Cuban Black. It's got a very interesting. The Slaps goes hard. Guava Piff we have here. Nightcap times Gary Payton. Yep. Really, really nice. Bless you. Bless you, bless you. Ooh, shit. And some of the other strains are really nice too, man, that he popped from the Capulator. He had some Granny Mac from him that he pheno hunted and looked through. I like those strains, I want to see flavor, gas, stuff that has, like, again, its own thing, I love me some Z, some good Skittles is always a good thing on my palate, I can have a couple of those.
Peep this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Doja's got some good weed, man, always. Yep.
Z right there.
Yeah, Doja be smoking. His shit be smoking, I'll be picking up. Can I smoke some of this too? Get myself a little.
See that? I knew you want to roll that up.
Yeah, listen, when you're a weed lover and you smell something nice, you want to roll it.
Come on, man.
It's just a thing,
Come on, man.
Respect. Much respect.
Here.
Smell some of that.
Curious. He's curious.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you got to put up in that loose leaf. Some Z, some good Z. Smoke that shit all day. That's my Piff, man.
Yeah.
Z is my
Piff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's look, the strain, from what I know of it and from my bringings, my buddy Fieldsy, was a great part of that fucking thing, Mr. Z man to me, so like the fact that we get to see a lot of other great brands also putting it out, like, look, it's the same thing with the Haze too for me, You got something good, man, people are gonna want to fucking do it, put it out and work with it. It's sometimes it could be tough to digest and it's my thing and this and that, which look, the people know who and what, you know what I mean, at the end of the day, right? So we don't got to go there, right? So look, other brands are going to evolve from that and have their moments, which, look, everybody representing that is representing it to the highest level, so that's all cool, you know what I'm saying? That's all nice. That's nice for the strain itself always being boom, so shout out to all the brands that are putting out good weed, but just also, respectfully to all of us in the space, just also, got to be united. You know what I mean? We all got to be as cool as possible with each other. Just so, look, so it just represents power too. You know what I mean? When you're like that, you're lined up with each other. It should be the way it goes. You know, life doesn't always go according, but I'm a firm believer in just straight positive vibes, man. Even when they throw you a knuckleball or a curve, and
How much longer are you gonna take before you do your selections?
you know what? So like, you know, my guys that grew a lot of this stuff, they've chosen some of the winners, and they're just checking to see where I'm at with some of them. So we do already have.
You got a good idea.
Yeah, my buddy Zachary and his pop, you know, Big Isaac, we got the idea. They're just like confirming. I mean, we're seeing so many things here that it's like Jesus. That like.
Yeah, that's why like I would normally try to get through it all, but I just know like we couldn't.
That's
get
okay.
through
I'm
it
gonna
all
leave
today,
you a
but
party pack.
I definitely have been looking through them and
Yeah.
checking them out, and it's really interesting what you've done here.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
interesting.
Yeah, gotta give the
And
boys the
I
credit
will,
for
you know. I say, you know, the goal is to find or make Haze 2.0.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we kind of have here. We
Yeah.
have that, you know, like, it's funny you say that because for years I was putting out the Cuban Black still, you know, and I'd go to places like even the pop-ups, you know, when we're doing Secret Session, you know, I'd have my guys come from LA over here, and they'd be like, man, get that Haze out of here, cuz. And I'm like, yo, try it. You know, they're like, man, it's smoking, but I still don't want it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, cool. You know, it's a difficult thing for the masses to love. So I'm like, yo, do we got to hit it with other stuff? And the same thing my buddies were thinking, the same shit. We got to hit it with the cool stuff that the people want, you know, just because.
Yeah, I want to see it with like Skittles, Gelato
Yeah,
41,
yeah. That's something.
Biscotti, just
Yeah.
like some stuff like.
Sure.
I like the OD,
Yeah.
the original Diesel Rose,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know,
Sure.
like stuff. You know, the SFV is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not a big OG guy
Sure,
personally,
sure.
but
Just the fact
it's
that the
nice how
traits
they
are there.
came out.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously this is a pheno.
Yeah.
hunt, so
Yep.
nothing's dialed in,
Sure,
but they all
sure.
look good.
Sure. I appreciate that. We appreciated it because it's
Absolutely.
like, you know, it's just important, you know. And again, you know, there's so many like,
What's the Gran?
that's the Granny Mac.
Granny Mac.
Yeah,
it
just
looks
Granny
like
Mac from
yeah.
the cap. Yep. He that's his seed that, you know, Zachary Pheno hunted.
And we got a question mark here.
Yeah, we got a couple questions. We got a couple of those, though. That's why, you know, there's a couple one-offs, and you got the
It
slaps.
actually looks interesting too.
Yeah, they are.
Like that's why I feel like Haze 2.0 would be is like
Sure.
it needs to have the Haze characteristics, but
Yeah.
it needs to have some color,
Yeah.
and it needs to have some funky gas, not
Yeah.
just gas, like
Yeah.
some funky purple gas
Yeah.
back to it.
So
And I feel like you would have a hit, you know?
yeah. I mean, we've spoken about it. We talk a lot, you know. So we're believe me
It's
when I tell you,
interesting
you
here.
might see
Yeah.
it sooner than you think, you know, out of nowhere. Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Very. I mean, look, everything this kid puts out, I gotta give it to him, bro. Like,
Hell
you know, he has the right. This
Like you say, you
zealousy,
know,
these
Haze
kids'
is
zealousy
Haze is a
slaps.
real novelty. Like it's something that's not around all the
Correct.
time.
Correct.
So I had somebody gift me some Haze
Uh-huh.
with some Moroccan hash, some old school
Beautiful. That's
hash,
how we
right?
gotta go.
And
That's the way to
in
go.
Amsterdam, that's how we do
That's
it.
how you do it.
You know, and last time I think we were out there last year, we got with Karma Genetics, and he gave us some Haze, and I love to see what they're doing. I've done with it, and it's just legendary. It's super legendary over there. I don't think people understand how legendary
Yeah.
Haze is over there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to do my trips to Amsterdam, you know, as a youngster. Go out there.
This is interesting. The zealousy.
Yeah. I used to go out there a lot, you know. I want to say 3 times overall been to Amsterdam, you
Yeah.
know. And man, like for me, Katsu was the place I used to hit up, the coffee shop I enjoyed. They always had interesting stuff. Their hash and everything was really on point. But yeah, I mean, those are the guys that really were responsible, you know, at the end of the day for bringing the Haze, you know. Neville, you know, originally, you know what I mean? Then you had some other brands, you know, when he was coming off of his issue or whatnot. Sensi, I believe, was out there. Then, you know, they made a lot of seeds, and seeds started coming, you know, to New York everywhere, you know, and from the 90s to late, you know, early 90s to late 90s, you had a lot of Haze winning cannabis cups, you know. And then, you know, from the Cuban Black, obviously, is, you know, a New York thing that, you know, was just dominating up there, you know. Washington Heights, Harlem, all those places just inspired me to really go with this brand. You feel me? Really. At the end of the day, I was a kid that used to go up there and have Hazes. I'm like, yo, this is the shit, the Piff, you know? So just stuck, you know, just stuck. Fast forward years later, you know, just thought it would be a really good idea to match it up, you know, and just, it's been difficult in the sense of like, you gotta, you know, the original Cuban Black's 120 days to flower.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 110, you know, until it's done, you know. I mean, it could be 90, 100, but then it could, you know what I mean? It could go as long as that for the whole process, let's say, right? Whatever, right? So, you know, facilities weren't open to it, you know.
Right.
Places want to go 60 days, boom, boom, go. And I get it, too, from a business standpoint, you know. It's understandable. But, you know, if you do have that, like we were saying, that artisan craft, that, you know, type of weed that's like very, very nice, and the Haze could grow very interesting and have that dreamy, nicey smell to it. So, you know, it could be a little bit more value possibly to it. Again, I want to make sure that it's still good and right for everybody to smoke and try. You know what I mean? But yeah, I personally think it should be one of the pricier strains, only in the sense that, hey, it takes a lot longer to grow, so you're putting more stuff in, you're doing more work. I mean,
Right.
but that's where people, you know, haven't gotten it right. Like, they just don't grow it right.
Yeah.
You know, it's only
It
been
needs to
certain
be like
farms.
sticky and
Yeah, like when
super
growing,
potent.
like
you know?
like in Florida and New York growing up, like it was
real
like
potent.
unreal. Like, and still, you know, we're hoping to, you know, keep going and get more versions. You know, like like the one really nice version that we do have. You know, that the one I started the brand behind. You know, just put it out like crazy and just. Okay, the people that saw it knew it was it, you know. Not everybody got a chance to see it. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? But yeah, we were putting it out, and like I said, guys like that on the traps, on the streets, on the blocks that are fucking. It's been part of their everyday. Like, you got to have Haze on the menu, you know. Like, it's like one of the things on the menu.
Yeah.
So it resonates throughout New York City. So like, look, you know. I was hoping to highlight the strain a bit more to get people more out there to love it more. And I personally am seeing a lot of love for it. A lot of people, you know, being about with it, which is great, man. I'm like I said, God bless. Just want to make sure people also know, like, I was leading that frontier. You know, I started that whole brigade where, you know, did shit that nobody did to make sure that at least we get it to the people, you know. And still going, which, like I said, I appreciate everybody for anything that they do for Haze and Piff and whatever it is, and everybody that's put their part into it, you know. But we're talking about my part, you know, like my part that I really was like, yo, I'm going to start the Piff and we're going to put it out and we're going to get it rocking, and it's going to help everybody back here and there, because someone's got to have the cut in their garage or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then we're going to see multiple versions of it, and we're going to have a good time. And that's really what it stemmed off of. It wasn't like, you know, let me pat myself on the back type shit, you know, oh, I came with this or whatever. It was just like, yeah, I really just think the industry's missing it. And, you know, it's one thing to say you started something and did something, and it's another thing to really, like, just lead it and do it. You know, I don't know what to say. Like a lot of people have, you know, hey, I did this, I did that. Cool. You know, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And it's going. And, you know, in order to say, hey, you're, you know, this and that, like, you got to have a few of your things in line, you know, have your domains, have your brands, have your this, have your CA trademarks, have your that, you know what I mean? I have those things. So, like, you know, I'm the Piff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like I said, much love to everybody doing anything Piff related. Please don't ever, you know, but I gotta, you know.
Basically saying right here, I'm the mayor of the Piff.
I mean, you know, I'm the
owner of
czar,
it.
you know, I'm the Piff czar. You gotta come see me. You got Piff. You
The
talking
fucking
Piff?
king of the Piff.
That's it, bro. And like I said, I
Yo.
couldn't be that person without my
People
team.
ain't pulling up with phenos of Piff like this. I don't
Nah,
know, man.
And the blocks are gonna go bananas, bro, when they hear about this shit. They're just gonna be like,
Yo,
"What are you?"
They are
talking
not
about?
ready for this, bro.
Nah, they're not. They're not. And honestly, I'm just gonna make sure, like, you know, all my good people of those blocks, you know, will
the
have-
heights will go crazy
Yeah.
over this right here.
Man,
They better tune in.
look, guys. We did it for you.
We're just, you know what?
know?
We're just gonna drop this shit on YouTube ASAP.
This is gonna be
And run it up.
disrespectful because honestly, man, the Haze community. There's so many of us out there that just they don't
You just
know.
came and shit on everybody, man, with all the crosses of the Piff.
I mean, look, you know, I'm blessed.
My
to
man
have-
brought house slippers, bro. Just to put it into perspective, he brought the slippers and everything.
some ashtrays for the guys. Some
For real.
t-shirts.
King of the Piff, man. Well, we're gonna be waiting on this Haze 2.0, man.
Yeah. We
Something purple, something funky.
yeah. I'm
You know,
open, man. Anybody
something,
out there,
something
let's
the
go.
youth will appreciate, and
Yes,
you
I
know,
want
all smokers alike
Sure.
will enjoy it. Maybe a little candy.
I'm
in there.
open to it, man. Anybody that's putting out
Candy
some,
with the Piff.
candy
Candy
piff.
Piff.
I'm open, guys. You know,
Some plays with
Just
it.
plays,
you know?
make it happen. You know, I'm open to you as
Yo.
well for your platform. Thank you for having me. You know what I'm
100%,
saying?
man. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you as well. I do.
We're gonna
appreciate
get
you.
into some of these. We'll make some goodie bags. I know
Yeah,
Cody's
absolutely.
eyeing a few.
Yeah.
He's checking a few out. He's looking at the grabba leaves and the loose leaves.
Yo, it's dreamy.
trying
Yo,
to
you
roll
start
one up.
floating, man, on
You
this
guys are
shit.
influencing him right now. He's about to go home and smoke one of those.
Oh my God, roll one, Cody.
Hell yeah, man. But shit, where can they find you at?
You know, we at the Piff, ThePiff, 3 Fs, the Piff, Nick the Piff, regular, you know, my little music page, music producer, manager, was blessed to be able to do that all through the love of cannabis. Thank you for that. And we're still here 15 years later.
Let's fucking go, man.
Let's go.
Snake the Piff. You already know.
Thank you.
At the Piff, 3
First smoke
Fs.
of the day.
It's first smoke of the day. Peace. Hell yeah.